This is Tom Brady, and he's the greatest NFL player of all time. But that didn't come without controversies, rivalries, and historic comebacks. Over his 2-decade-long career, he warped our perception of winning, all while ruining many careers and franchises, making us never look at these people or teams the same ever again. To show you exactly what I'm talking about, let's take a look at Tom Brady's last rival, in Patrick Mahomes. Now, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is comparable to Tom Brady, but he was pegged as the next best thing all the way back in 2018, fresh off his first MVP. And that's where this story begins. When it came to blocking the next great dynasty, Tom Brady made sure he did his best to stop what was coming, making sure Patrick Mahomes learned his lesson early about who was really the one running things. These two met when it mattered the most twice, and Brady wasn't about to let the young gun take his throne without a fight. Patrick Mahomes had just thrown for 5,097 yards and 50 touchdowns in his first season starting with the Chiefs. The Golden Boy with the rocket arm had taken the league by storm and led the Chiefs to host their first ever home AFC Championship game against the Patriots. Tom Brady and the Pats had looked old and tired throughout the season, and that was to be expected. Brady was now 41, and the Patriots had just come back off back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, winning one of those against a player/franchise we'll get to a little bit later in Matt Ryan and the Falcons. Even with all the doubts, they went 11-5 and made their way to the conference championship as well. With the Chiefs being the home favorite, it seems as though the Patriots took that a bit personally. In the 2018 AFC Championship game, Brady and the Patriots outlasted Mahomes in an absolute shootout. Tom led a game-winning drive in OT, hitting Gronk and Edelman all the way down the field, denying him a Super Bowl appearance in just his first year as a starter. But Brady wasn't done yet. He actually went to the Chiefs locker room post-game and gave Patrick some words of encouragement. In doing so, Mahomes said he took that advice the following year, and the Chiefs hoisted their first Lombardi in 50 years, channeling a little Tom Brady in his comeback win against the 49ers. But a lot can change in a year. The Chiefs were now running the AFC in 2020 and walked their way to another Super Bowl. All the while, some things were being suggested as Patrick Mahomes could potentially start catching up to Tom Brady, citing he'd had the best start to any career we'd ever seen, and Mahomes would get his chance to really take a chunk in that race, because in the Super Bowl this time, they'd face, surprisingly, the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Bucks after Brady left the Patriots in 2019. Brady and Mahomes were both ready for another matchup in the playoffs, and though Mahomes probably had his best game out of all his Super Bowls, the team didn't. Brady dismantled the Kansas City Chiefs in a 31-9 beatdown. That loss marked the worst defeat in Mahomes' career at the time. Brady didn't just beat Mahomes, he sent a message to the entire league that the old guard wasn't ready to step aside just yet. Now Mahomes is in a career-long chase to match Brady's ring count, a comparison that's inevitable and one that will follow him for the rest of his career. Every time Mahomes wins a Super Bowl, people will be asking if he gets closer to Brady. In this past year, he had a chance to make history and three-peat, something Brady never did, and etched just a little bit closer to Tom Brady's GOAT status. But he got dominated by the Eagles, pretty much shutting down any potential GOAT arguments for the time being. He made sure that Mahomes' legacy would forever be measured against his own, and that's the ultimate power move. Another power move was having the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. Matt Ryan was the league MVP and had already set numerous records on his way to his first Super Bowl. The Patriots had revived their dynasty a few years earlier, coming back against the Seahawks, who we'll talk about next, but in 2015 he lost to Peyton Manning in the AFC Championship. Brady, fresh off a 4-game suspension for Deflategate, had one of his best seasons in years. He went 11-1 in the games he started, had 28 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions, coming second in MVP voting to Matt Ryan. They would eventually match up in the Super Bowl, and for the first half, it looked like they had given the MVP to the right guy. Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons were up 28-3 in the Super Bowl, and the game was over. Or so they thought. What happened next was the most famous collapse in Super Bowl history, and it cemented Tom Brady's legacy as the greatest comeback artist of all time. The Falcons had a 99.8% win probability late in the third quarter, but Brady didn't care about the odds. He methodically picked apart Atlanta's defense, completing pass after pass, driving down the field with surgical precision, attempts, and pass yards in that game. And he did it when the pressure was at its absolute highest. Matt Ryan, who had just won MVP that season, could only watch as his championship slipped away. The Falcons' play calling didn't help, but Brady made sure to capitalize on every mistake. That loss will haunt Ryan and the Falcons forever, and it's a reminder that no lead is safe when Brady's on the other side. The 28-3 comeback is stuff of legend, and it's the moment that truly separated Brady from every other quarterback in history. And every time we think of Matt Ryan, we think of 28-3, and the Falcons have never truly recovered. Speaking of the Legion of Boom earlier, we might as well get to them now. The Seattle Seahawks Legion of Boom was one of the most feared defenses in NFL history, and they were on the verge of winning back-to-back Super Bowls. The Patriots finished 12-4, leading the AFC East as Brady threw for 4,109 yards and 33 touchdowns, posting a 97.4 passer rating. New England's offense ranked 4th in points scored per game, while their defense held opponents to just 19 per game. They dominated their playoff run, beating the Ravens 35-31 in a shootout before demolishing the Colts 45-7 in the AFC Championship game. with Brady throwing for 226 yards and 3 touchdowns off of some deflated footballs. Meanwhile, the Seahawks went 12-4 as well, dominating the NFC West with the league's best defense, allowing just 16 points per game. Russell Wilson threw for 3,475 yards and 20 TDs, while Marshawn Lynch rushed for 1,306 yards and 13 touchdowns on the ground. Seattle's Legion of Boom was at its peak. Both of these teams now would meet in the Super Bowl. Brady and the Patriots were down 10 in the fourth and had to mount a comeback. He targeted the Legion of Boom's weaknesses against tight ends using Rob Gronkowski and short to Amendola and Edelman with quick passes to neutralize their aggressive secondary. The Patriots came all the way back to take the lead 28-24 and the Seahawks had to drive down the field. Malcolm Butler's goal line interception. When the game was on the line, Brady delivered and Wilson didn't, and the Seahawks' dynasty dreams were crushed. The Seahawks were never the same after that loss, and Brady made sure of it. He didn't just beat them, he broke them. But the Legion of Boom wasn't the first legendary team that Brady dismantled on the biggest stage. The St. Louis Rams were the greatest show on turf, a high-powered offense that was supposed to steamroll the young, inexperienced Tom Brady and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. But Brady had other ideas. The 2001 season was supposed to belong to the St. Louis Rams. The Rams finished 14-2, absolutely demolishing opponents with their high-powered greatest show on turf offense. Kurt Warner won his second MVP award, throwing for 4,830 yards and 36 touchdowns with a 101.4 passer rating, leading the league in nearly every major passing category. Marshall Faulk finished second in MVP voting after putting up an incredible season with 1,382 rushing yards, 12 rushing TDs, and 765 yards and 9 receiving touchdowns. The Rams' offense was first in the league, averaging 31 points per game. They steamrolled the playoffs, beating the Packers 45-17 and the Eagles 29-24 to reach the Super Bowl as heavy favorites. Meanwhile, the Patriots season took an unexpected turn in Week 2 when Drew Bledsoe suffered a serious injury against the Jets. Enter Tom Brady, a 24-year-old nobody who had just thrown 3 passes in his career. Brady took over and led the Patriots to an 11-3 record as a starter, finishing the season 11-5. He threw for 2,843 yards and 18 touchdowns with 12 interceptions. They upset the Raiders in the controversial Tuck Rule game before beating the Steelers 24-17 in the AFC Championship. In one of the biggest upsets in Super Bowl history, Brady led the Patriots to a stunning victory, launching a dynasty and blocking the Rams from securing a second title. And while Brady was ending dynasties, he also made sure that one of the most talented QBs of this generation never got another big moment. Aaron Rodgers is one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever play the game, but when it came to Tom Brady, he just couldn't get it done. After years of near misses and hypothetical matchups, Brady finally faced Rodgers in the 2020 NFC Championship game, and he made sure to leave no doubt about who was better. Rodgers had an absolutely phenomenal year, leading the Packers to a 13-3 record and winning his third MVP. He threw for 4,299 yards and 48 touchdowns with just 5 interceptions, posting an insane 121.5 passer rating and 70.7% completion percentage. The Packers offense ranked first in the league, averaging 31 points per game. Rodgers was absolutely at his peak. Meanwhile, Tom Brady was in his first year with the Tampa Bay Bucks, and everyone wondered if he could still do it without Bill Belichick. The answer came quickly. Brady led the Bucks to an 11-5 record, throwing for 4,633 yards and 40 touchdowns. Tampa's offense was ranked third, averaging 30 per game. Brady proved he could elevate a team that hadn't made the playoffs in over a decade, beating Washington 31-23 in the wild card and the Saints 30-20 to reach the NFC Championship game. For years, people said Rodgers was more talented, and Brady only won because of Belichick. Now they are finally meeting in the playoffs, and Brady and the Buccaneers dominated Rodgers and the Packers, denying him a trip to the Super Bowl and solidifying Brady's position over him before Brady retired. The Bucs would win 31-26 after taking a 28-10 lead. It wasn't really close. Their head-to-head matchups often featured 2 of the most decorated quarterbacks in the game, with Brady leading the series 3-1. Rodgers had the arm talent, the mobility, the ability to make throws nobody else could probably ever make, but Brady had something more important, the ability to win when it mattered the most. Rodgers is a legend, but Brady always made sure Aaron was one step behind. But not every victim of Brady's dominance was a star quarterback. The Patriots dynasty didn't just start with a Super Bowl win. It started with one of the most controversial calls in NFL history. The 2001 season was Tom Brady's coming out party. After Drew Bledsoe went down with a serious injury in Week 2 against the Jets, the 24-year-old 6th-round pick took over. The Patriots offense ranked 7th in total yards in the league at 5,361, and New England finished first in the AFC East and earned a first-round bye. The Oakland Raiders, meanwhile, finished 10-6 and won the AFC West under head coach John Gruden. Rich Gannon had a Pro Bowl season at quarterback, throwing for 3,828 yards and 27 touchdowns, which is 9 interceptions. The Raiders' offense ranked 4th, averaging 25 points per game, led by Gannon's connection with receivers Tim Brown and Jerry Rice. When the two teams met in the snowy playoff game, nobody expected what would happen next, launching their run to their first Super Bowl. The call changed the course of NFL history, and the Raiders have never forgotten it. But Brady made sure to capitalize on that luck, turning a controversial call into the foundation of a 20-year reign of dominance. The Raiders were the first victims, and they never saw it coming. and even though the Raiders would go on to the Super Bowl just the following year, they were never truly the same. That was their best chance at getting a ring. And speaking of teams that never stood a chance against Brady, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the most storied franchises in NFL history, but when it came to Tom Brady, they were just another victim. Brady's record against the Steelers, including playoffs, is a stunning 12-4. That's complete and utter dominance over a team that's supposed to be one of the best in the league. In games against Mike Tomlin's teams, Brady was statistically flawless for 6 games straight, recording 19 touchdowns and 0 interceptions with a 127.5 passer rating. That's the kind of perfection that's almost impossible to achieve, but Brady did it against one of the toughest defenses in the league. The Patriots defeated the Steelers in both AFC Championship games during the Brady-Roethlisberger era, in 2004 and 2016, making sure that Pittsburgh's championship dreams were crushed when it mattered the most. To be fair, this was before the Mike Tomlin era, but that 2004 season was heartbreaking. The 2004 season was all about dominance, and both the Patriots and Steelers proved they were the class of the AFC. The Patriots finished 14-2, first in the AFC East, with Tom Brady throwing for 3,692 yards and 28 touchdowns, posting a 92.6 passer rating and earning his second Pro Bowl selection. Corey Dillon had a monster year in his first season with New England, rushing for 1,635 yards and 12 TDs. The Patriots offense ranked 4th in the league at 27 points per game, and they cruised through the divisional round, beating the Colts 20-3. The Pittsburgh Steelers had an even better regular season, going 15-1 and dominating the AFC North. Rookie Ben Roethlisberger took over in Week 3 and went 13-0 as a starter, throwing for 2,621 yards and 17 touchdowns, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. Jerome Bettis rushed for 941 yards and 13 touchdowns, while the Steelers' defense was the absolute best in football, allowing just 15.7 points per game. When these two powerhouses met in the AFC Championship at Heinz Field, it was a defensive slugfest early on before the Patriots pulled away. New England won 41-27, while Brady threw for 207 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Patriots defense forced 4 turnovers, completely shutting down the Steelers' momentum and ending their perfect season dreams. The Steelers are a pillar of a franchise. Mike Tomlin and Bill Cowher were/are great coaches, and Ben Roethlisberger was a great quarterback. But they were no match for Brady. Every time the Steelers thought they had a chance, Brady made sure to remind them who was in charge. That 12-4 record is a permanent reminder that even the best teams in the league couldn't stop Brady when he was at his peak. For 2 decades, the AFC East was Tom Brady's personal playground. The Jets, Bills, and Dolphins had to face Brady twice a year, every year, and it was absolute torture for them. In 112 games against the AFC East, Brady racked up 27,326 yards and 200 touchdowns, maintaining a 95.4 passer rating. That's Hall of Fame stats just against 3 separate teams. It's 2 decades of keeping 3 entire franchises in check. The AFC East became a joke because of Brady, with people constantly saying the division was weak, but the truth is, it's hard for any team to thrive when they have to face the greatest quarterback of all time multiple times a year. Every time one of those teams started to look promising, Brady would crush their hopes and remind them of who ran the division. Brady didn't just dominate the AFC East, he suffocated it, making sure that no other team could rise while he was there. That's 20 years of psychological warfare, and it's a legacy that those franchises are still trying to recover from. Philip Rivers had a Hall of Fame career. Even with that said, there's one glaring stat that will haunt him forever. He went 0-7 against Tom Brady head-to-head. That's the kind of record that defines a legacy in the worst way possible. Rivers was a fierce competitor, a gunslinger who could sling the ball with the best of them, but when it came to Brady, he just couldn't get it done. Their best chance was probably in 2006. The 2006 season belonged to LaDainian Tomlinson and the San Diego Chargers, who finished with the best record in the AFC at 14-2, dominating the AFC West. Tomlinson had one of the greatest seasons in NFL history, rushing for 1,815 yards and an NFL record 28 rushing TDs, while also catching 56 passes for 508 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. He won the MVP, and it wasn't even close. Philip Rivers took over at quarterback in his first year as a starter, throwing for 3,388 yards and 22 touchdowns with 9 interceptions. The Chargers' offense was first in the league, averaging 30 points per game. The Patriots were also great. They finished 12-4, winning the AFC East as Tom Brady threw for 3,529 yards and 24 touchdowns. New England's offense was ranked 7th in the league at 24 points per game. When they met in the divisional round, the Patriots pulled off a stunning upset, winning 24-21. Brady threw for 280 yards, while the Patriots' defense held Tomlinson to just 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. San Diego's season ended in heartbreak despite being the top seed, and Brady once again proved he could win on the road when it mattered the most. Another one of those losses was particularly brutal in the 2007 AFC Championship game, which Rivers played through a torn ACL. That's the kind of toughness that deserves respect, but it still wasn't enough to get past Brady. Every time Rivers got close to a championship, there was Brady standing in his way like a brick wall. It's almost poetic in a tragic way. But he did come out of retirement right now, and there's no Tom Brady standing in his way, so we'll see what he does at 44 years old. Speaking of legacies defined by Brady, let's talk about the man who helped build the Patriots dynasty but couldn't win without him. That's Bill Belichick. The split between Tom Brady and Bill Belichick was one of the most talked about breakups in sports history. For 2 decades, they were the ultimate duo, winning 6 Super Bowls together and establishing the Patriots as the most dominant NFL franchise in history. But by 2020, there was a natural tension between them and their goals were no longer aligned. Brady wanted to prove he could win without Belichick, and Belichick wanted to prove he could win without Brady. So Brady left for Tampa Bay, and the verdict came in quickly. Brady immediately won a Super Bowl in his first season with the Tampa Bay Bucks, while Belichick struggled in New England, posting losing records and failing to make the playoffs year after 2021. That was really all the proof anyone needed. Brady was a clear winner of the feud, and it wasn't even close. Belichick, the so-called genius coach, couldn't replicate the success without a star quarterback. Meanwhile, Brady showed that he could still take a team that hadn't made the playoffs in over a decade and turn them into champions in 1 year. The debate about who is the most important to the Patriots dynasty is probably officially over. Then Bill went to UNC, and it has honestly looked even worse, making Brady look even better. But before Brady left New England, he made sure to torment one quarterback for 15 seasons. Lastly, we have Manning versus Brady. If there's one rivalry that defined an entire era of football, it's Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. This was the ultimate showdown, widely considered the greatest individual rival in NFL history. These two went head-to-head 17 times, and Brady came out with an 11-6 overall record. But here's where it gets interesting. Manning managed to flip the script in the postseason, leading 3-2 in playoff matchups, including a 3-1 edge in AFC Championship games. Brady himself said he viewed Manning as an enemy to maintain his competitive edge. Manning was the one guy who could match Brady's football IQ, his preparation, his ability to dissect the defense. And their best matchup where Brady won was probably in 2013, Week 12. The 2013 season was Peyton Manning's masterpiece, as he put together one of the greatest individual seasons in NFL history. The Denver Broncos finished 13-3, dominating the AFC West with an offense that was absolutely unstoppable. Manning won his 5th MVP award, throwing for a record 5,477 yards and an NFL record 55 touchdowns with just 10 interceptions, posting a ridiculous 115.1 passer rating. The Broncos offense was obviously first in the league by a mile, averaging 37.9 points per game. Denver came into Week 12 looking like the clear Super Bowl favorites. The Patriots that season finished 12-4, winning the AFC East as Tom Brady threw for 4,343 yards and 25 touchdowns. New England's offense ranked 3rd at 28 points per game, and Brady was the only player to take away an MVP vote from Peyton Manning, making sure he wasn't the unanimous winner that season. When these two Titans met on Sunday Night Football, it became an instant classic. The Broncos jumped out to a 24-0 halftime lead, and it looked like Manning would cruise to a victory. But Brady orchestrated one of the greatest comebacks of his career, scoring 31 unanswered points to take a 31-24 lead. Manning tied it late, forcing OT, but Brady won it 34-31 with a game-winning drive. Every time these two faced off, it was a chess match, and the entire football world stopped to watch. But despite Manning's playoff success against Brady, the narrative still leans in Brady's favor because of the sheer dominance in the regular season and the fact Brady ended up with more rings. Manning was great, no doubt, but Brady made sure he was greater. And so there you have it. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you're new, and click the video above if you like the content.